Good morning. This morning the talk is the greatest evil in the world, and that is ignorance. Ignorance refers to ignorance of the Dhamma, ignorance of reality of the world, truth concerning life and afterlife. If you don't know about the Dhamma, there is darkness in the world, and only when the Sambuddha appears and he spreads the Dhamma, and then when people follow the Dhamma, there is real peace in the world. You can find those places where there are wars, where there are killings, there's a lot of suffering, quarrels, etc. It's all due to ignorance of the Dhamma. Because of ignorance of the Dhamma, we do what we should not do, and we neglect to do what we should do. So we cause problems to ourselves, we cause problems to others, and that's why nowadays you find people are very materialistic, because economy is good, and then people become materialistic, and there is more mental suffering. You find people with depression, people kill others because of hatred, because of religion, differences in religion, differences in race, and mainly because of wrong views. You don't understand the Dhamma, you have wrong views about the world. You don't understand about the law of karma vipaka, which is what is said in the Bible: as you reap, as you sow, so shall you reap. What you give to others, you get back in return. A lot of people don't understand that. And people also don't know about samsara, the cycle of rebirths, that the beings that we meet, we have met before, probably many times. So the people that you hate now could be your relatives in the past life. It could be your relatives in the future life also. So it's very important to know the Dhamma. If you understand the Dhamma, then there will be peace in the world. Sometimes you can say Buddhism is not a religion. Not a religion in the sense that it doesn't ask you to believe. The Buddha said, Ehi Pasiko, come and see. Practice and see the results yourself. You can get the results in this very life, then you can believe. Buddhism doesn't promise you, if you become a Buddhist, you'll go to heaven. No. Whether you go to heaven or you go to hell or you go to the ghost realm or animal realm, all depends on yourself. All depends on your actions. Yeah. So it's very important to understand the nature of life, the nature of existence. There are three characteristics in the world that a lot of people don't know, which is anicca, dukkha and anatta. Anicca is impermanence. Everything in the world is energy, and energy doesn't stay still, moving all the time. So because of impermanence, everything will change. When we were young, we read stories or comics, and they live happily ever after. Yeah, and we like to believe that. And they live happily after. We would like also to live happily ever after. It doesn't happen that way. You fall in love and you think you have the perfect partner. After about 10 years, your marriage falls apart because of each other's ego. Yeah. So, because of impermanence, everything is changing. So, one of the famous monks in Thailand, Ajahn Chah, he used to say, "Mai non, nothing is certain. Nothing is certain." Sometimes a businessman strives very hard to become rich. When he becomes rich, he thinks he's made it. He'll be happy ever after. Suddenly he finds he has cancer, terminal cancer, he never expected. Yeah. So this is the way life it is. Ajahn Sumedho says that's the way it is. Yeah. And another characteristic of the world is dukkha, suffering. There are two types of suffering: physical suffering and mental suffering. Physical suffering means we grow old, we age, and then we become sick, and we die. Yeah, In the suttas, the Buddha said, birth is suffering, aging is suffering, sickness is suffering, death is suffering. Not to get what one wants is suffering. To associate it with those that you dislike is suffering. To be separated from those that you love is suffering. In short, the 5 aggregates of attachment are suffering. These 5 aggregates of attachment is actually body and mind. These 5 things: body, feelings, perception, volition, consciousness. The first is the body. The last 4 is the mind, the working of the mind. Once you have the 5 aggregates, you have a perception of the self. This is my body. I feel happy, I feel sad. But the Buddha says it's not that I feel suffering, just suffering arises. It's a feeling that arises. Happiness feeling arises, like a computer. Because of conditions, things change and feelings change, etc. But because of the wrong perceptions that we have, we think there's an I connected with this body and the mind. So we attach to this body and the mind as the self. And we see ourselves in the world. And because the world is impermanent, and when you have happy feelings, you want to hold on to it. But everything is changing, so when it changes, you feel suffering. So as far as physical suffering is concerned, there's not much you can do. The fact that your body must age, must become sick, must die. Even an enlightened being, even holy men, must go through that process. But mental suffering is something else. Mental suffering is because of not understanding the Dhamma. If you understand the Dhamma, you will know that everything that arises, that ceases in the world is all due to conditions. It's not like somebody made the world. The Buddha was the only religious teacher who said time had no beginning and time has no end. So if there's no beginning, you cannot find someone who created the world. The Buddha said, when the Buddha talked about cosmology, the world systems, the Buddha said, every star that we see out there is a world by itself. And every world has these planes of existence, basically 3 realms: the sensual desire realm, the form realm, and the formless realm. The sensual desire realm, you have humans, you have animals, you have ghosts, you have hell beings, and you also have heavenly beings. The 5 destinations of rebirth. And it is called sensual desire realm because the beings, you have male and you have female, and there is sensual desire. Sensual desire not only refers to sex, but the attachment to see beautiful sights, hear beautiful sounds, smell beautiful odors, taste good food, and touch and thinking. So the characteristic of this sensual desire realm is we get enjoyment through the senses. The 5 senses tell us about the outside world: sights, sounds, smells, taste and touch. That's the outside world. The inside world is the mind. Mind also you can enjoy. Nowadays a lot of people play computer games, entertain yourself. So that is the nature of the sensual desire realm. In the form realm, the beings, in the sensual desire realm, you also have heavenly beings, but they are low beings, so they also enjoy sensual pleasures. In the form realm, you have higher heavenly beings, and their body is not like us. Our bodies, we have a head, 2 hands, 2 arms, eyes, ears, etc. In the form realm, the heavenly beings are just a ball of light. Like Brahma, Mahabrahma, just a ball of light. And that's because they are there, because they have developed jhana, rupa jhana. So they are reborn in the rupa realm, form realm. And the mind is much stronger than ours. And the brightness of the body can pervade at the minimum 1,000 world systems, 1,000 stars can go. And the highest the brightness of the body can go up to 100,000 stars away. So sometimes it is said in the discourses of the Buddha, when they come to visit, for example, Sakadeva Raja in the sensual desire heaven, the Sakadeva Raja will see a ball of light coming from the distance, like an asteroid coming. And then they know that this Brahma is coming, and then they stand up out of respect. And when this Brahma arrives, it changes its form to be like them. And then he will talk to them. And after that, you will fly away. This ball of light will fly away again. But in the formless realm, it is called formless, I believe, because even the other devas cannot see them. The body is so fine and so huge that no other devas can see them. The lower devas cannot see the higher devas, but the higher devas can see the lower devas. But the lower devas can see the higher devas if they allow you to see, because the mind is much stronger. Just like we can't see ghosts, we can't see devas, but if they want us to see, they can make us see. Yeah. So these are the three realms: Kama Loka, Rupa Loka, Arupa Loka. So the other characteristic are these higher devas, these form realm devas and the formless realm devas. They don't need sensual enjoyment. It's because sensual enjoyment is a much lower enjoyment. Their happiness comes from within because they have developed these states of mental absorption. The mind is in great bliss. So the Buddha says that those devas in the second jhana heaven, they are so blissed out, and every day they are saying sukha, sukha, happiness, happiness, happiness. For millions and millions of years, they are getting, it's better than on drugs. And drugs, you are high for maybe a few hours, but for them, millions of years, they are blissed out. And in the third jhana heavens, the Buddha said they are so blissed out, they cannot utter a word. Totally blissed out. And the fourth jhana heavens even higher. Those are the... So our mental suffering, if we understand the Dhamma, if you get a vision of the Dhamma, Dhammachakku, you become the lowest Arya, which is a stream enterer. And for that you don't need meditation. You need to listen to the Buddha's discourses again and again. Then when you understand, your life will change. Your direction in life will change. Because when you know the nature of life, you are no more, you don't want to chase after material gains, because everything in the world is impermanent. Even if you become the richest man in the world, how long is your life? On average, 70-something, you will pass away. Yeah. So when you pass away, you cannot even bring 1 cent with you. So you understand all this, and you know that there are woeful destinations of rebirth. You become very cautious. When you learn the Dhamma, you know that your actions will determine your next few lifetimes, not just one lifetime. Then your direction in life changes. You become more spiritual. You see longer. A lot of people, their vision in life is very short. They want to become rich. They want to have a beautiful spouse. In another 30, 40 years, your beautiful spouse will no longer be beautiful. Yeah. So when you understand the Dhamma, you see much further. That's why your life direction in life changes. The third characteristic of the world is anatta. Anatta means there is no self. Nothing is self. Atta in Buddhism is a bit different from the Hindu Atman. Atta means something that is permanent, something that is everlasting, like the Christian soul. But in the Buddha's teaching, everything is energy, everything is a flux of energy, nothing stays still. So there's nothing permanent in the world. So this body that we take to be the self, the Buddha likened it to foam. When you put fab or something, soap powder, to wash your clothes. You stir the water, and what happens? All the bubbles come up. Yeah. When you look at the bubbles, is there anything solid? No. Bubbles arise, bubbles burst. Bubbles arise, bubble burst. It's a very good simile for our body, because our body is made out of cells, trillions of cells. And these cells are just like the foam bubbles. Cells arise and cells cease, cells arise and cells cease. And now science tells us that every 7 years, all the cells in our body now, in 7 years' time, all would be dead. New cells come up. So we are to use a simile, like the snake shedding the skin all the time. So we are shedding our cells all the time, changing our cells all the time. Nothing solid in this body. And the Buddha says our mind is changing even faster than our body cells. But the Buddha said, because of our wrong perception, we can see that this body is not the cell, because 5 years ago, when you look at the mirror, and 5 years later, when you look at the mirror, you're not so young anymore. Yeah. So you realize that this body is changing. One day you will become sick, and it will die. So it's easier to see that this body is not the self, but it's harder to see that the mind is not the self. This mind is our self-protection device. From the moment we are born until we die, we are struggling through life to protect this self. Yeah? Because of the ego, we want everything good for this self, this I and mind. We struggle to get the best in life for I and mine, my family, my children, my parents, my property, everything you want to protect. So life is a struggle. But the Buddha said, all this is not ours really. We came into this world empty-handed, and we will go off empty-handed. Yeah. If you have a good karma, you will have more things to use in this world. You will enjoy life better. You have bad karma because of bad actions you did, you won't be so lucky in life. Yeah. So, because of anatta, and we are changing, this body and mind is changing all the time. There's nothing that you can identify as I, as me, because which part of the body is yours? It's all cells changing, nothing you can identify as you. Anything you identify in the body as you, sometime later you'll just die off. So if you say this body is I or mine, 70 years later when the body is dead, where did that I go to? Same with the mind. So this is the characteristic of the world: anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanence, suffering, and non-self. This suffering, just now I said, is physical suffering and mental suffering. Physical suffering, you can't do much. Mental suffering is because of craving and attachment. Because of craving and attachment, things that give us happiness, we want to hold on to it. But we cannot hold on to anything in this world. So when things change, for example, your relationship with somebody changes and you can't accept it. Some people commit suicide. Yeah. But that's the nature of life. If you understand the Dhamma, that everything is impermanent, then you let go. Let go. I know some people who have listened to my sutta talks and they have cured themselves of depression. An old lady said she listened to the sutta talks, and after 1 year she came to thank me to say that this anxiety disorder that she had been suffering from for many years has been cured. So Dhamma can cure our mental suffering. From the moment you become the lowest Arya, you have no more mental suffering. So that's why it's so good to have this, to know the Dhamma. And the Dhamma also tells us that about the round of rebirths. If we pass away, we can be reborn in 5 destinations of rebirth. 2 are happy destinations: heaven, various levels of heaven, and human beings. These are the 2 happy destinations. The three woeful destinations are the ghost, animal, and hell realms. Hell is the worst. You're tortured every day. So, where we go for rebirth depends on our karma. Even like us, we are reborn as a human being. We can see very clearly there are many different types of human beings in the world. Yeah, some they have a good life. Some have a life of suffering, like many of those in Africa. Some in India. Some in Indonesia. They're suffering. So, the life we have depends on our actions, on the amount of blessings we have. So if we know that there is this cycle of rebirth, that we can be reborn into woeful planes, then we become more careful. A lot of people are very reckless in life, very careless. They just enjoy. At the end of life, you have to pay for it. And then the Buddha said our life is governed by the principle of karma vipaka. Karma vipaka. Karma is the intentional actions that we do through body, speech and mind. Vipaka is the result that you reap as a result of your actions. If you do good actions that benefit other beings, the result that you get is happiness. As you give happiness, you get back happiness. And then if you do evil, you harm others. Very often because of wrong view. For example, these ISIS people, they think that they can cut somebody's throat and go to heaven with 72 virgins waiting for them. Yeah, all this is wrong views, getting the wrong teachings. So that's why it's important to know the Dhamma. So the Buddha also tells us that the wholesome actions that we do will give us happiness, and nobody can bless us, nobody can curse us. Our good actions bless us, our evil actions will curse us. So these are principles that we need to understand. Also, the Buddha said the most important Dhamma that he teaches is the Four Noble Truths, the Four Aryan Truths. The first truth is truth about suffering. And the Buddha said suffering is because of craving, because we want to enjoy life. Because we want to enjoy life, we have the will to live, a strong will to live. So when most beings, when we pass away, we hold on to life, we refuse to die. And because of this strong will to live, we project ourselves into another life. The mind is very strong. You see, when people are dying, some people, they refuse to die, maybe because they see another realm is appearing before them. It's a frightening realm. And they don't want to die, they hold on to life. As long as they can bear it, they hold on to life. But some people, when the time comes, they just let go and go off easily. Why? Because perhaps they have good karma. They don't have so much attachment. Even in wars, you find if a soldier gets struck by a bullet or a bomb, explodes, there are some, they will die very fast. But another person, perhaps he has a serious wound, but when he thinks of the wife and the children, he hold on to life. And his will is strong enough, he can make it go through. So this will is propelling us from life to life, birth to birth. So this suffering is mainly caused by craving and attachment. If we let go of our craving and attachment, then our life, the life of Aryans, becomes limited because they don't attach so much to the world. They let go. And then the second noble truth is the cause of suffering. Cause of suffering is craving. Craving brings along attachment. For example, if you love your beautiful child, So you have craving for the child, and that craving comes along with attachment. So if anything happens to your child, you can't bear it. There was a man in Malaysia who told me, I think he had 2 daughters and 1 son. The son went to Australia to study, and then something happened. I think he drowned in a pool or something. And the parents had so much suffering. The father told me it was so unbearable. And as a result of that incident, he said he dare not love the 2 daughters so much. If anything happened to the daughters again, he wouldn't be able to stand it. So it's because of this understanding of the Dhamma that he starts to let go. So when you let go, you have less suffering. The third noble truth is cessation of suffering. Cessation of suffering is when we get rid of the unwholesome states of mind called greed, hatred, and delusion. Greed, I think all of you know the meaning of greed. When you have excessive greed, you can do terrible things, cheat people, and then commit adultery or whatever. Then hatred, because of hatred, somebody is of a different religion than you, somebody is of a different race than you. You can have hatred. Because of hatred, you can kill people. Then delusion is a very blurred state of mind. So blurred, the hindrances. In Buddhism, we talk about 5 hindrances that can be very strong. Sensual desire, ill will or anger, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, and doubt. Sensual desire can be so strong when some man can rape the daughter or rape the granddaughter. Ill will or anger can be so strong that because of quarreling over a parking space, somebody can kill somebody else. And then sloth and torpor. Sloth and torpor you can see when you meditate. And restlessness also when you meditate. Your mind is running all over the place. You can't fix your mind on the breath. So these are the 5 hindrances that we have to get rid of. And you get rid of in meditation. So that is delusion. A person who is deluded, he can sit beside the Buddha and the Buddha is teaching him the Dhamma. He cannot understand because his mind is so blurred. The Dhamma is very profound, so you need to have to be highly intelligent to understand the Dhamma. So the Buddha said, if he teaches, the Buddha said, let an intelligent man come to me, one who is honest, straightforward, and I will teach him the Dhamma. The Buddha doesn't teach the Dhamma to everybody. He sees those that are capable of understanding, then only he will teach. So the spiritual path, the holy path, is the practice to get rid of these 3 unwholesome states, greed, hatred, and delusion. And if you have eliminated these 3 defilements, then you become an enlightened person. But there are many levels of partial enlightenment. There are various Aryan stages. So the highest stage is the Arahant. One is totally liberated. So that is the cessation of suffering. A person has totally eliminated the greed, hatred, and delusion. Is totally rid of suffering because he has no more self. You can see that this body is not the self. The mind is also not the self. So that is cessation of suffering. Then the path leading to the cessation of suffering is the Aryan Eightfold Path, Noble Eightfold Path. There are 8 factors that you have to practice to reduce your suffering. And the sutta says you have to start with the first one, which is right view. And right view will bring you to right thoughts, which will bring you to right speech, right action, right livelihood, and then right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So the Aryan Eightfold Path has to be practiced in that order, only that order. So the first factor is the most important, right view. And the sutta says to get right view, there are two conditions. One is the voice of another teaching you the Dhamma. By yourself you cannot attain right view. Somebody has to teach you the true Dhamma, the original suttas, discourses of the Buddha. Of course you can study the books on the translations of the discourses of the Buddha yourself also, in which case it is the voice of the Buddha that is teaching you. So the second condition is focused attention. When you listen to the Dhamma, you must pay full attention, then you can understand. But a person with a blurred mind, he wouldn't be able to focus his attention. His mind is, deficit, attention deficit. So these are the only two conditions to get right view. Once you get right view, you have seen the Dhamma, you become the lowest Arya, a stream enterer. And once you become the lowest Arya, the three woeful planes are close to you. Forever you will never be reborn as a ghost, as an animal, or go to hell. And your blessings will be extremely great. And then your life will be limited. 7 more existences. You will only be reborn as a human being and go to heaven. And each time, whether as a human being or go to heaven, you have a very good life because your blessings are immense, immeasurable. So the Buddha says, once you become an Arya, the suffering that remains is very little compared to a Putujana, an ordinary worldling who's forever on the round of rebirths and cannot get out of the round of rebirths. Because a Putujana, in the cycle of rebirths, most of the time he will go to the woeful planes because of our natural tendencies of greed, hatred and delusion. Are reborn as a ghost, animal or hell more often than we are reborn as a human being or go to heaven. So the Buddha also said that where the Aryan Eightfold Path is found, there you can find Aryans. Where the Aryan Eightfold Path is not found, you cannot find these Aryans, these holy men. So the Aryan Eightfold Path is very important to us to reduce our suffering. And the last thing I'd like to talk about is dependent origination. This whole world is created because of causes and conditions. The Buddha said, as I mentioned, time has no beginning and no end. The Buddha also said that space is boundless. You cannot find the boundaries of space. And this is recently confirmed by Professor Stephen Hawking. So Buddha talked about world system. Every star is a world system. And then the Buddha talked about the small 1,000-fold world system, which consists of like 1,000 stars. But of course, this 1,000 is only approximate. Then the Buddha talked about the middling 1,000-fold world system, which is 1,000 of these clusters of 1,000 world system. So that is the middling 1,000-fold world system. Then the Buddha talked about the great 1,000-fold world system, another 1,000 of this middling world system. So because space is boundless, whatever life we experience here, there are uncountable numbers of them out in space, just like us. But of course they are so far away we can't communicate with them. In the Bible it is said that the world will be destroyed by fire, but it's not explained how the world will be destroyed by fire. But the Buddha explained. The Buddha said world systems, sometimes they expand, sometimes they contract. So now scientists have come to know that the stars are moving away from each other, are moving away from us. This is the expanding world system. But the Buddha said there's a limit to their expansion. A time will come when they reach their limit. After that, world systems will contract. The stars will come nearer and nearer and nearer. Now we have one sun with us, and it's hot enough. Time will come, a second sun comes near us. When the second sun comes near us, human beings will die, animals will die, plants will die. Later, as the stars come nearer, third sun will come. The rivers start to dry, the ocean starts to get lower. Then fourth sun, fifth sun. By the time 7 suns come near us, the world will burn. And all these stars will come together and form a huge mass, what scientists now call the black hole. Black hole is a huge sun, so huge that its magnetic pull is so strong. Anything that goes near is pulled sucked in. And because it has such a huge magnetic pool, that it is burning, and the light particles try to go out, they suck in. Light particles go out, these photons go out and suck in. It's because of that, you look from far, you cannot see it. That's why they call it a black hole. So a time will come when you will explode and throw out all the stars and all the planets and all that. So this has been going on for eternity, from the beginning of time to the ends of time. So the Buddha saw all this. So now slowly science is beginning to confirm what the Buddha has said 2,000 over years ago. At the moment we have one psychiatrist from America in our monastery. 2 years he came for a retreat, now he's come back. The first time he came, he told me, after listening to the discourses of the Buddha, he was astounded. Why? Because he said, what the psychiatrists have discovered in the last 100 years, the Buddha has spoken about it 2,500 years ago. That's why he's so interested in Buddhism. So everything in the world arises from conditions. So if we understand that now, whatever happens in the world, we have to accept it. We were part of the causes and conditions that create the present situation. So whatever comes our way, happiness or suffering, is a result of our actions, whether this life or past life. So we accept everything that comes our way, then we reduce our mental suffering. So the Dhamma teaches us a lot of things, and if you are ignorant of the Dhamma, you have wrong views. You believe in certain views that cause suffering to yourself, cause suffering to others. It's very important to know the Dhamma. The Dhamma doesn't ask you to believe in this and believe in that. The Buddha said, you come and find out. The Buddha, in the Kalama Sutta, the Buddha said, don't believe these words just because I spoke them. Don't believe because it comes from a holy man. Don't believe it because it comes from the books. Whatever. You go and practice. And if you find it is good for you, then you continue practicing. So I'll end here.